One thing about me is that when I was 15, I got my first job as a dishwasher, working at a cafe. And since I was a dishwasher, I worked in the kitchen with the cooks. So one day, they hired this guy who knew how to cook. He was a full-grown man and they hired him. So anyway, I worked with this man alone. And remember, I was 15 closing in the kitchen with this guy alone. He used to sing to himself all the time, and I remember saying he had the voice of an angel, and he never really bothered me, but he was just there, and I would close at night with him alone. Remember, so then one day came in the DES or some such other federal agency, and I don't remember because I was not working that day, but they came in and they got him. What for? He was a pedophile. A fucking pedophile. And he was on the run from the law. For what? He was trying to pick up 13-year-old girls in his car. And I was 15, just 2 years older than that. So maybe I was too old for him, but I don't know. But they had me as a child closing in the kitchen alone with a pedophile, and I got really pissed at the cafe I worked at, and I wanted to sue them, but I didn't know how to sue them, so I did not sue them, and I got really pissed, and then I was like, we should install background checks, and then I talked to my coworkers, and they said, if you install background checks at this restaurant, then everyone who works here will have to get drug tested, and we all did drugs, and everybody smoked weed, and we did not want that. So then in a little while after that, I quit, but that's still pretty fucked up that I was closing alone with a motherfucking pedophile. What?
One thing about me is that when I was 10, this kid in my class used to glue my butt cheeks together, and one day he took it too far and used Gorilla Glue, so I decided I would stand up to him, and as he turned to me and said, "I'd never poop again," I turned back to him and said, "My cheeks may be stuck together, but at least they'll be in the same room on Christmas." Unlike your parents, from what I've heard, to be clear, my family was on the rocks as well. And he got upset and I got in trouble, but he did not get in trouble for gluing my bare ass. And that's the day I learned men do not face consequences. And now I'm a comedian and I tell that story on stage. And every time I do, people say that's very funny, but that's also trauma and you should talk to somebody. And I say no. I just dance.
Okay, one thing about me is when I was in college, my friend wanted to sell her laptop on offer up. I went with her so she wouldn't get robbed. So we met these two guys in a parking lot at Starbucks at 9 p.m. When we get there, their door is open. She gives them her laptop, gives them her charger. A car pulls up beside us, so they close the door. I think, this is suspicious. But right as I say that, the guy goes, "Oh, my plug just blocked me. Can I use your phone to see if he'll answer?" She gives him her phone, and right as she does that, he puts the car in drive. I think, what could I do in this situation? For some reason, I think that jumping through the window is the best idea. Right as I do that, they speed across the street, going 60 miles per hour. At this point, I'm begging for them to give me something of hers because she literally has nothing. He says, "Get the fuck out of my car, I'll shoot you." He was going 60 miles per hour, so I was like, please slow down. I can't jump out of a 60 miles per hour moving car. He slows down to 20. At this point, I just have to jump. So when I jump off, I memorize the license plate. When the cops come and question me, I tell them the license plate. Long story short, they caught the guys and got her stuff back.
One thing about me is my mom is a Mexican immigrant, and when I was 14 years old, she got hit up by a distant family relative who told her there was a Rebecca Black fan club in this small town in Mexico, and they also wanted to give me the keys to the city. So my mom is obviously like, okay, cool. So next thing I know, we're on our way to Mexico. We end up in this small town and we get to the day of the meet and greet. They take us to some big fancy house and then they usher us into a room full of men in suits. I meet them all. I'm like, a guy. And then they take me to a room full of an audience of about 20 people all wearing these t-shirts. They sit me and my mom in front of the step and repeat with a table and microphones. It kind of looks like a press conference and my mom is next to me acting as my translator. People in the crowd start asking me questions like, how do you like Mexico? And how do you feel about voting rights? And how do you feel about the presidential candidate of Mexico at the time? And I'm like, who? What? I don't really know what's going on, but I also don't want to look stupid again in front of the world. So I'm like, yeah, great. He's great. Voting's great. I'm sure it'll all be great. Not really knowing what I'm talking about, but I'm literally 14. And then we end up going home. I realized I never got the keys to the city, and now I'm on my flight back home with my mom. And I'm scrolling on Twitter before the flight takes off, and I start seeing headlines about me and how I have endorsed the presidential candidate of Mexico at the time. And then I realized that my entire family was just scammed by this distant relative who worked for his presidential campaign into endorsing the presidential candidate of Mexico at the time. And the world thinks I've done it as a 14-year-old when I've never heard of this man in my life.
One thing about me is that this summer I was living on a tour bus with my best friends, and every day me and my best friend Sophie would say, if we ever go to Vegas, we have to get married. If we're 30 and we're in Vegas, we are getting married. And we were not going to Vegas, but one night we were driving through from Colorado to Los Angeles, and our tour manager wakes us up at 1 a.m. and says, guys, we're driving through Vegas in 3 hours. Do you want to get married? And we said yes. So I proposed to my best friend with a peach ring at a Love's gas station at 2 a.m. She said yes. I was delighted, and then we drove to Vegas to get married in a chapel, but Elvis wasn't there because he was fully booked and it was 4 a.m. But we got married, and my tour manager had no socks or shoes on, but he gave the bride away, my beautiful wife, down the aisle. And my band members were my bridesmaids and my maid of honor and best man, and it was amazing. And then I'm married to my best friend, and that's that.
One thing about me is that I had strict parents, and one of their rules was I could not date. So against their wishes, when I was 15, I fell in love with her, and now she's my wife.
Because we were forbidden to meet, our best friend let us use his parents' house. Inside this house, there was a multi-purpose room,
which we used for multiple purposes.
One day, while we were using the room, we started making out against the door.
While we were making out against the door, his father came home and tried to open the door.
We thought that maybe if we just stayed still, he would go away.
He did not go away.
Not go away.
Instead, he forced open the door and made eye contact.
And said, please get out.
So we just got out. Now to this day, when we see Richard, we cannot make eye contact with him anymore.
Girls that have red hair is because they're going through shit.
Yeah, they going through something.
The blondes are fun,
But they're toxic.
brunettes are sweet and nice and caring and loving. Red hair, they're
Just
going through
let
shit.
them be
Let
themselves.
them heal. Let them heal. Black hair,
Black hair, don't fuck with them.
black